Who's the fella who lights up a room when he walks in the door? Evan White. With so many strong ideas, he's creative to the core. Evan White, 'cause he's been at it for 20 whole years with plenty to show for his illustrious career. So if you're looking to grow your brand, then Evan White is here. 'Cause talent tech PR is sure to take you very far. The HR tech space has a fresh face, and it'll make your brand a star. Spinning straw into gold and taking flight, you'll be soaring through the sky at incredible heights with talent tech PR from Evan White.
Wow.
Good morning. Good morning. What's going on this morning?
I
How are
mean, I am so in love with Evan White. Is he on? Evan, I'm obsessed with you.
Well, welcome to the HR Morning Show, the number one spot for all things HR all morning, and Evan White. Excited to be back in the seat, and I'm excited that I am joined by the one and only Kyle Lagunas and Trent Cotton. What's going on today, party people? How are y'all?
You know, I need someone to do a little jingle like that for me. Like Evan's got his I wonder, does Evan start every day? Like that's kind of his thing as he's brushing his teeth. I mean, that's pretty motivating.
It's a pretty strong intro, Brian. I'm sorry to jump right in there. It's just so good.
Well, I mean, that's what we do here on the HR Morning Show is we dissect all things HR, and we're dissecting right now the one and only Evan White. If you're just joining the show and this is your first time, I want to let you know that we just hit over 2,000 followers on LinkedIn. We did it. We're excited to be here. This would not be possible without an awesome audience. We are part of the Purple Acorn Network. If you want to, you can head over to the purpleacornnetwork.com to learn about all things HR. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow us on YouTube. We're a podcast. We're on every Tuesday. And this Tuesday, we are joined by Kyle Lagunas and Trent Cotton. I'm Brian Fink, and we're ready to rock. We're ready to rock right now.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do this.
Okay, what are we going to do? Are we
A huge announcement, you guys. I've been on the show a couple of times, and one thing that made me laugh was at HR Tech this year, we had a BFF happy hour, which Trent was attending. I don't know if you can see this.
Got my
There you
bracelet.
do. And Serge introduced me to somebody. He's like, you should know Kyle. He, I don't know what he does, but you should meet him. I get to share today what I do, which is so exciting. We are a market research firm. We study innovation cycles in the world of HR and transformation. And today we just published our first category compass, navigating AI interviewers. I don't know about you, Brian or Trent, but like at the conferences this fall, every other vendor was launching an AI interviewer. They're just cropping up all over the place. And my job literally is to figure out what the heck are these things? How do they work? What powers them? What outcomes are they actually delivering for teams? And this morning at 8 o'clock Eastern, we launched it live. You can see they've got the extremely user-friendly URL you can type out right here. resources.kyleandco.com/category compass _AI interviewers.
Can you say that 5 times fast?
I barely could say it once, Brian. But literally, I am so excited to get this out the door. We evaluated 12 different solutions, and
Wow.
that wasn't even all of them. Since we announced that we were doing this research that was coming, my inbox has been flooded with others that I've never, and I'm no offense to everybody, but like haven't heard of them because they're just cropping up. Somebody had described at RecFest, they're growing like mushrooms, which if you live anywhere with mushrooms, they just crop up overnight. There's a whole bunch of them in your yard. So we're super excited about this because it is like, this is where the day job gets to be really cool and super exciting. I'm excited to launch it here at the HR Morning Show.
Hey, Kyle, I'm curious, what was one takeaway that surprised you that maybe challenged your hypothesis when you had going into this thing?
Oh, that's a good one, Brian. So one of them was I really thought that everyone was launching with AI video avatars where it would look like a human,
Hmm.
and that's who would interview you. I was stunned to find that many of them were delivering in voice. That seemed to be the primary interface, and it was preferred by candidates.
Hmm.
And so, like, they really didn't want to talk to a fake AI video avatar. They wanted to talk to a voice AI avatar, which led me down a rabbit hole. Voice AI is more advanced than video AI. So I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense, right?
That's
It
interesting.
does make a lot of sense, and it makes me think about trust building exercises. If I remember from the report, there's some of these AI solutions which allow people to practice before they actually go through with the intentional interview. Is that right, or did I gather that incorrectly?
So no, that is directionally correct, because there would be differentiation. So we that was something that we wanted to evaluate was what is the candidate experience for these tools. And do you guys remember when video interviewing was new and like HireVue had to like
Oh,
mail people webcams so they could actually take the
yeah.
AI or take the video interviews? Back then, I remember that some of the differentiated deployments was the employer would have like a prep session for the candidate or like a PDF, like here's how this works. And some of the AI interviewers do offer a prep session, a practice interview for to get ready for the actual, and others don't. It literally will just call you on your phone and start the interview. Yeah, so they're being they're this is why we're doing the research because they're even across 12 of them, every single one of them is unique. They're tackling different use cases. They're starting at different places in the interview process, like from screen to like literal role play behavioral assessments, skills assessments. Yeah, and they are offering different outputs. There's a lot going on over here. So what we thought was any increasingly fast-paced innovation cycle, people need to get their bearings, which is why we
Hmm.
created the category compass to help. And I will call out, we have one of the lead analysts on the project who is joining us today. I think that Emily was going to dial in, but I am going to just check in with our producers to see if we made it. Okay, no Emily yet. Um, all right. Well, I do want to share with you guys a couple of things that we found from here. The first was like, what is the business case? So, like, Trent, you work at ICIMS. Brian, you've been
Hmm.
working for a long time. We know that like we're in a new cycle of like a new normal for recruiting. Whereas in like the last couple years, the mantra has been do more with less. We are at a point now where it's like do more with less and do it better than you've ever done it before. So like just moving faster is not enough. What do you think about that, Brian?
Um, I wonder. I'm super curious about the types of outcomes that are occurring here. Is you didn't mention this in your study, but there was a study that was done by USC and Stanford, where they mentored candidates through an interview process that was focused on: do you want to speak to a human or do you want to speak to a machine? Do you want to speak to an AI? And as you're going through this process, they realized that the candidates who spoke to the AI, that there were fewer biases and there were more of them that were better prepared to meet with their human counterpart at the end of the interview. That's all to say, are we really moving faster for the sake of moving faster? Or are we moving faster for the sake of being better at what we do? And I want to concentrate on that is, are
Mm.
we delivering better outcomes to candidates and to the hiring managers and ultimately to the business?
I mean, that's a great
And
question. What do you think, Trent?
well, I was actually going to say, you know me, anything that is new, I like to try. So prior to joining ICIMS, I was actually a practitioner, and we were hiring at scale. And doing a lot of technical positions, and so I wanted something that was completely objective, because even if you do a technical interview with a human, you still have that, hey, Kyle and I are really connected. He didn't do as well as Brian did, but I really like Kyle, so I'm going to say that he did better. It happens, whether we want to admit it or not. So I wanted something that was going to be just kind of a very objective score. What was fascinating to me was the one that we chose. It also evaluated their English, because we were recruiting a lot in Latin America. And so
Oh,
it would
wow.
do A1, B2, B3, and we
Mm,
had it evaluating their soft skills. So critical thinking, like it was so all inclusive. And the only bump that we ran into is, um, surprise, surprise, I measured everything. So each step of the process, the candidate got like a little 2 or 3 question survey, like, was the manager on time? Do they explain the role? Just basic things, because I wanted to
mm,
temperature check what was going on. And part of it was after the interview, the AI interview. What did you learn? What kind of feedback do you have? Kind of rate the experience on a 1 to 5 scale. We started getting that a lot of the candidates were saying, it cut me off because I paused. Now, just think about it.
mm.
I can't. You were with me in Paris, Kyle. I mean, I grew up speaking both languages, and I still have to kind of think
Oui,
through the
oui.
French. I can't imagine having to explain something technical in a different language. So what was happening is the candidate was pausing to kind of translate in their head and then say it, but the AI was saying, "Okay, they don't know the answer." Quick fix. We went in,
Hmm.
adjusted the time delay, and then reissued the test to all of those that said, "Hey, I was kind of cut off." And so, to me, I know that there's a question in the comments about bias. Just my interaction with it, it actually leveled the playing field a little bit, and
Mm.
part of that was because I was checking on the candidate experience, which, Kyle, I don't know if this came up in your research, but one thing that I'm finding a lot of organizations doing is they drop it in and they test it for bias, but they don't test it for that candidate experience feedback. So that way they can fine tune it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're calling out so much of, like, this is why we wanted to lean into this area of AI innovation now, because and I threw this out to the analyst team. I feel like this is a agentic use case that is at one of, if not the most human centric points in the recruiting
Mhm.
process. Maybe negotiating an offer is more more human, but it's a very delicate use case, just as a category. But then, I
Mhm.
mean, you're talking about, I think, a technical conversation. We were seeing where these were being deployed just for screening for like a retail or hospitality environment, and there's some really
Frontline
straightforward
worker.
questions. Can you do this? Can you do that? Are you available then? Are you available then? um
So kind of like
but
the
yeah.
DNQs that we always used to use, but just doing it in an AI version.
Yeah, so that's part of how that's one way that some of them are being deployed. But yeah, I mean, we were looking at, what are the feedback loops? What is actually the underlying architecture? So we wanted to understand, how are what LLMs are you using here? Is this an architecture of public LLMs? Have you developed your own bespoke LLM? La 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 lam. And because that is also really important, right? We need to get an understanding of not just what is the user experience, which is
Mhm.
oftentimes where we as talent teams get stuck with just what's right in front of us. We really wanted to also delve in and see what was under the hood behind the scenes. How were these things working? It's I think it's something that needs to be continuously scrutinized. So I'm happy that we're putting out the first benchmark study to do that. We did also include in the report the categories of core functionality that we determined. I mean, we put out an RFI for like 32 lines, and through that we were like, oh well, some of this isn't like standard features or capabilities. Some of this is differentiated. So we identified what is like core functionality. We defined what is a limited offering versus a standard offering versus robust. And we ultimately, guys, ended up evaluating each vendor just in their own right. We didn't stack rank.
Hmm.
We didn't
Yeah, I
max
noticed that.
out. because because like it's too
It's hard.
new to say who's the best, and it's also, and I know Emily's going to join us today too. It's also like the best at what?
Mm.
Even
Well,
here in
and
our
don't you?
question, right? We're identifying different ways these tools can be used.
Yeah,
So let's
and
pull Emily into the conversation. Is Emily there?
Yeah. Hey, Emily.
Hi, friends. How are
Oh,
you?
hey, Emily.
oh.
Hi. Good to see you, Trent.
Welcome to the HR Morning Show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Of course, of course. I'm as I'm sure you could hear, I was just telling the gang about why we set out to do this work and some of the things that we tried to be really intentional about including. But everybody, this is Emily. She is our head of solutions consulting and advisory here at Kyle and Co.
Great to meet you.
You forgot rock star. She's a complete rock star.
I do my
She's
best.
a baddie. She's a
I'm
baddie.
the drummer in the band, as I tell Kyle.
Well, I do have to call out. I mean, Emily was instrumental in developing the RFI for this. I would say, Emily, you spent most of the fall conference season going through the expos and talking to solution providers about what
Yeah.
they were doing and why. Do you want to tell a little bit of the story for, where you got involved?
Yeah, for context, I've spent my entire career in talent acquisition. And the last 5 years, I really focused on helping enterprise companies optimize their hiring process. So that's through operational efficiencies and technology selection. So I've had a lot of experience working in very complex environments and understanding what talent acquisition leaders need to know and understand when they're making those technology selections and changes. And so when we went to the conferences this past fall, it was like all of a sudden AI interviewers were everywhere. And so we were, and we were like, what? Like, even myself, I was like, you saw it coming, but I didn't really realize the scale of it until the conference season. And so we just wanted to dive right in and say, where is this coming from? Why now? And what's driving this? And so that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Trent, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say I didn't know what an RFI was before I got into the vendor, and you've said it a couple of times. So just for someone that's listening is going, what in the world is an RFI? Can you kind of lay the groundwork? So that I think that's going to help as you all are explaining where you
Sure.
got this information. So just for the audience that may not know.
Yeah.
Emily, I'll like, because it is different on the research side than on the it's basically the sister to an RFP. In an RFP, you're actually trying to to get a proposal for a specific use case for a specific solution. An RFI is an evaluation tool. They're both evaluations. An RFI is I'm just trying to gather information so that I can evaluate. I'm not making any decisions or recommendations. So in the RFI, we wanted to create a standardized way for us to talk to everyone, to look at everything. Emily had a lot of conversation this fall, and we tried to pull the threads through those conversations to be like, all right, well, based on what they were seeing in the market, here is what we think we should have a look at. Emily, anything to add there?
I think you're spot on. I think what we continue to see is that the volume and efficiency play lives and breathes. It's very, very strong, having to do more with less. So that cost efficiency as well is alive. And so I think that's where we see this gravitation to AI interviewers. It's essentially that next level of evolution from like a chatbot or an assistant, if you will, to take when it comes to creating efficiencies in the top of the hiring funnel.
Great.
Emily, you talk about hiring assistants, right, to the recruiter. I'm just super curious, when we go to an event that is predominantly non-decision maker, I should say, where the decision maker is 10%, are recruiters buying into the idea of having an assistant who conducts these phone screens? Did your data kind of pull any of that?
I mean, I think when we talk to people in the market, recruiters to me, and what I've talked about with them is that they have a very specific place. So when we think about assistants or AI interviewers, they are going to crush the volume, right? Like they're going to get through your pipeline. They're going to be able to look at everything in kind of a binary way of following that process, doing the interview, giving you a score. The reason that I love where the recruiters fit is because recruiters kind of read between the lines. They understand the gray space and they understand where to make an exception when it comes to talent of like, I know this is the process, but this candidate is amazing. And these are expectations to the role. And so when we think about like recruiters or like human in the loop when it comes to AI, that's really where they're seeing their specialty, still being super consultative to hiring leaders, still educating them about the job market. So the ones that I've talked to that understand how to use AI to their advantage aren't intimidated at all. They totally understand their place in it.
Yeah, but
Well,
Emily, I think that actually kind of calls out, like, Kyle, I know you and I have talked about this several times. Those of us that really wanted to do the recruiting, Brian, you were perfect example. We thrive on the relationship. We thrive on the strategy. We thrive on the evaluation and finding those fits. But what's happened over the last several years is that we've gotten so bogged down in chasing this process, chasing this paper. And, kind of like what you said is that the good recruiters are seeing, let AI kind of take that and still let me kind of operate in the space that I'm the expert. Because quite honestly,
Mhm.
when you go through that entire process and you're chasing down forms and all this stuff for 7 hours a day, your focus is so drained that you can't really do the thing that the company needs you to do, which is very
Yeah.
uniquely human.
That's right.
I have to say it's so interesting, and this is why, like, I loved this research project because a lot of what we started to get into was like, oh, every one of these is built differently because every
Mhm.
single company interviews differently with different priorities at different points in the process.
Yeah.
Yep.
For example, I had a executive roundtable to close out the year here in Boston, and we were hosted by the head of talent acquisition for a very well-known technology company. And Emily and Jake, who's our head of product and innovation, who co-led the evaluation here, they presented early findings to the group, and including talking about the leading stages where we see these deployed. The head of TA for this technology firm directly challenges your priority there, Trent. She said, "I want my recruiters to be the first touch. I want the very first touch to be human. I want to keep that recruiter screen with my recruiters. I might deploy these for doing a little like getting ready for the hire, like a pre-hiring manager. So it might start with the recruiter, go to the AI, and then it really is, yeah.
All
One
over.
thing that I will say is like a major finding for me is it is the teams that just buy a tool and deploy it are going to lose. The opportunity with these is to do the process mining and the journey mapping and figure out where in your stage, in your process, you want to accelerate and automate and agentify, and where you want humans to be. So solution design is not becoming like a differentiated best practice here. It is a core to getting what you need, what you want out of these tools. So
Yeah.
it's just I had to call it out. I'm like, you think everybody wants these at the top of funnel, but some of them don't. It's
Yeah, and
interesting.
it's spot on. And Trent, you said something before I jumped on about the candidate experience and kind of testing that. Like, do they even like this? And it made me think maybe this is old school, the EVP, and kind of
Mhm.
what Kyle was talking about, where it's like maybe it is like, hey, we're investing in this because we're a technology forward organization, or we're the best in brand when it comes to efficiency or whatever it is as it relates. And like you can spin it
Mhm.
into your company culture and your story to advocate that you are on the cutting edge. So I think there's all different ways to do it. And to Kyle's point, it's what's your company culture, what's your risk profile, and how do you blend those two together?
Love it. I also have to call out one thing that I would love to hear from you, Emily, was what were some of the behaviors that we observed or heard secondhand about early adopters? Because this is still very new. Every solution we looked at, they had clients that was part of the qualifier. They had to have clients that were using it. Emily, what was something that we heard? I would love for you to share something that we heard from vendors as we sent out the RFI, the request for information.
Requests for information. I would say some of the things that we heard from early adopters, we hit on one, which was candidate perception. So, how does this affect me? What if I want to talk to a real person? All that bo jazz. We also talked about the risks. So obviously legal. So if we think about like Illinois, New York, EU, there's a huge they're advocating for consent and bias audit. So those early adopters have to understand, and most enterprise organizations have these now, but these AI committees. So it's like, how do we stay on top of the regulations that are in place today? And the challenge is that they're always changing. So as regulations are still being written, how do we stay on top of that and make sure that we're compliant again in a way that meets our risk profile and our process? And then the other piece is the process. So this is like where I live and breathe. Of the 12, organizations that we talked to about AI interviewers, every single one of them started with a job description. And I don't know about you, Brian, or you, Trent. I know Kyle. I can't remember the last time I went to a TA team and was like, how are your job descriptions? And got a positive feedback. Like, job descriptions are tough. They become outdated. They're always changing. And so a lot of these AI interviewers will help you, right size them based on what you need. But it's really important that you're having internal business conversations around what is this job description, because that's the baseline that the AI interviewer is going to be interviewing off of. And there's a real difference between a job description and a job posting, right? And so I think for organizations to make that differentiation is what early adopters found out very, very quickly.
Emily, you bring up a strong point about a job description, right? Not the job advert, but the job description.
Yeah.
Do you think that the next evolution is hiring manager intake or strategy sessions guided by an AI so that you can capture all that information and make sure that it's applicable when the AI interviewer is doing their job?
I mean, I think that is taking place already. I just don't know if it's been productized. There's so many AI tools that can capture meeting notes, and then having recruiters be able to digest that and then position that in the appropriate ways in their process. But Brian, I think that that's already happening for sure. Yeah. And I think if
the product teams listening should be, right? The product listening teams that are listening to this, like, that's an incredibly valuable artifact.
Yeah. Those recruitment strategy discussions are going to be really interesting, because most of the AI interviewers, you can add additional questions. It doesn't have to be just based on your job description. So lots of nuance can be added there for sure. Good question, Brian.
And thank you for calling out that, I know the four of us, whenever we go and we talk, the first question, the first hand that goes up whenever I get a Q&A, I'm like, all right, bring on the bias question. Like, I know it's coming.
Yes.
I love the fact that you called out that the real bias starts in the job description, not necessarily in the interview. It starts there. Like it's that what's that proverb? You gag in a gnat and swallow a camel. I mean, that's the part that I just don't really understand.
I have never heard that in my life.
It is in Proverbs. Go read it.
I'm going to check the Hebrew on that. Give me 1 second, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm an Old Testament girl, so.
Sorry.
But you know what's interesting about that, Trent, though, and I will advocate for this, is that sometimes Kyle's okay.
We've lost Kyle.
Someone needs to go check on
He's
Kyle.
gone.
Some people will look at that in TA teams and be like, oh my gosh, that's too big of a project. And then they get paralyzed because they're like, oh, I have to evaluate every single job description. And then it goes into levels, and then it goes into compensation. And it's like, it's this giant rabbit hole. So we definitely advocate to start in one business function, like
Absolutely.
build that business case, or, build those learnings from one group, and then understand what your measurable outcomes you want to have achieved, and then take those to that next business function. But you don't have to, start addressing every single job description. That's insane, actually.
Yeah, that'll put you in the hospital.
It will. It really will.
Well, Emily, thanks for coming by and for
Bye,
showcasing
Emily.
a bit of why you shaped this research the way you did. Everybody, you can download it at resources.kyleandco.com/category compass _AI interviewers. We really got to get a simplified URL here. But thanks, Emily. You're the best.
Thanks, team. Great to see you.
Emily.
See ya.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Talk Nerdy with ICIMS. I'm bringing on a guest I don't think we've heard from this morning. Kyle? You want to join? I
Surprise!
know, surprise.
You
And I was
know,
like,
you can tell it's a slow news day when they just
"Yeah,"
stick with me.
but I was like, okay, y'all leave something for me to kind of ask. I wanted to kind of put you in the hot seat. So
Mm,
I want to double click down on a couple of things. So, Emily, thank you guys for all that you did. Being on the vendor side and getting the RFIs, I know how detailed you are, and I'm always amazed at analyst groups that can take all of this information and then digest it and then put it back out. So, huge kudos, major undertaking. But one of the things that really jumped out to me in the research was that you point out that buyer readiness lags behind vendor capability. So, what do you think is preventing many of these functions being turned on in the vendor?
I mean, listen, this is the problem. This is why we exist at Kyle and Co. That is like our mission is to help close the gap between innovation and adoption, because it's widening, babe. Like
Hmm.
it really is. In this example specifically, Emily was getting into it at the end. The readiness is not just a technical conversation or a
Yeah.
technology conversation. It is here. It is a process conversation. It's a
Hmm.
strategy conversation. Like where are we going to deploy these and why? Right now, the big why is I've got to do more with less. Like
Right.
I have to continue. Like we are still under budgetary constraints. We're still under pressure to find efficiency opportunities, and the value proposition of these tools at the surface level is just that. But beneath the surface, even in this most simple use cases, which is just screening with these tools, the how and why it like that final mile of AI innovation is
Hmm.
where all the exposure and all of the impact, positive or negative, comes. And
Hmm.
that's the readiness that I like. It's just the scenario we're in. You're a former HR leader. Like we haven't really had a moment to catch our breath.
No, no,
Like
it is.
I can't go slow to go fast, right? I
No.
just don't have that space.
Yeah, and what's interesting though, and I think what's kind of concerning for me whenever I look at what's going on in the market, it never is a good thing whenever you see organizations putting in a tool out of desperation. And I think
Mm,
the initial kind of early adopters, I think they're the ones. I mean, I was one, I was curious, like, could this
mm,
help? Could this elevate? But I think, as I'm kind of looking at that cycle now, I'm wondering how many are just saying, all right, I got to do more with less. Let's just drop this in.
yep,
We've
the
talked
risk.
about, go ahead.
I was just saying that's the risk. I'm with you.
It is.
Trent, I have to call something out that is a little spooky. And this
Yeah.
is a little bit of a signal to the market on the vendor side and on the buyer side. We got feedback from the vendors when we sent out our RFIs that they hadn't seen this level of evaluation from their early adopters.
Mm.
Babe, we had 32 lines in the RFI. And if anybody has done a like RFP evaluation for a tool, like 32 is it's enough, but it is
That's
not
light.
immense.
It's
Like, right?
very light.
And we evaluated five categories of capability: recruiter and hiring team experience, candidate
Mhm.
experience, measurement and insights, integration and implementation, and then AI model and features. Like we organized it in a simplified way, but that when we debriefed after we got that feedback, me and Jake and Emily, we were like, okay, we've got to really nail this. Like
Yeah.
that worries me. That is the actual gap that exists right now is things are happening so fast and we're under immense economic pressure, organizational pressure to figure things out, and we just go. And I don't like that. I don't like that exposure.
Yeah, one of the things that I advise, because, like I said earlier, I always get the bias question.
Mhm.
We've got an internal AI, responsible AI framework, and so it's got 5 different pillars, and everything that we build, we run through that, and it's audited and certified by a third party. I guess, my advice to anyone who is considering this, and I wanted to see if you agree with it, you do need to understand what is that vendor's approach to governance. And if you're demoing something, just For me, a little bit of advice: bring your legal and your compliance team and even your procurement team on the second demo. Let them ask questions. Let them kind of see the products. I think what's happening is that they the practitioner gets all on board with it. They get their key stakeholders minus the ones that really are kind of the decision makers, and then at the end they get frustrated because legal goes, time out, I have got some serious concerns about this. Did you see anything or hear any kind of anecdotes from your briefings with vendors or clients on that?
Yeah. So this is in that like, do you know how hard it is for me to wrangle all those? Well, you do. You've been
Oh,
in
I do. I do.
to
Yeah.
wrangle all those people, and I think this is where there's this like chicken and egg issue. I need those people, my partners internally, to join these to help me to evaluate these, like get a full perspective on this. But if I'm inviting them into the space, like at what point do I invite them in? Like, can I do
Hmm.
preliminary? It's just like, and do I have time to do six different interviews, evaluations before I bring them in? Like, they're useful, they're necessary, they're helpful. I need to be literate enough. I need to be familiar enough with these tools to find out, like, all right, procurement, I need you to pay attention to this.
Hmm.
IT, I need you to pay attention to this. Privacy and security, I need you to pay attention to this. And legal, I need you to pay, like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't just bring all the cooks into the kitchen and hope that we make a Michelin star meal.
Right.
If there's just, it's hard. Especially when they are all of those functions are getting asks from across the entire business to help them
Yeah.
evaluate these things too. And so hopefully with a resource like this report, it helps you to get some clarity, and it helps to get your bearings. It's a category compass, helps you to get your bearings so you can figure out like what is, I'm going to keep saying that last mile. That last mile, I think, is where I need to bring in my partners too. I need to be ready. I get them once, right?
Yes.
Maybe I'll have somebody come back in a second time, like procurement and IT might be riding along with me for a couple of these things. But the real subject matter experts, I've got to be ready for them. And so it means I need to walk into that knowing exactly where I'm going to need them. I'm going to have my short list already done. It's just tough, man. Like we're not innovating on islands in HR and talent, but we can only draw on so much from the business to get so much priority for these things. So I don't really have a strong answer um, because it's just so complicated. But hopefully reports like this will just be the first, that we'll see others bringing some resources to our friends in the buyer's seat, the ones that are in the hot seat to solve some of these problems. Because we definitely need to work on this together.
Completely agree. And you keep talking about the last mile, but I mean that's where I see organizations that are trying to do this new stuff. That's where they trip. It's always, I mean, they
Yep.
can see the finish line and they hit head first, but they trip. So
Mm.
um, I'm a huge fan of you and your team and all the work that you do. So thank you for tackling this very dicey, fun topic. So with that, I will kick it back over, and I think we got something new coming up, right?
We do. We've got our first guest of the day.
All right.
Hello. Gina, my girl.
Surprise. Kyle, I never realized how Italian you are. I was worried about talking with my hands too much, but now I feel comfortable using the hand language.
I have had this was all full of Americano. So I just had to get ready. I was in a terrible mood yesterday, but here we are. Hi.
Hello. Good to see
Welcome to
you.
the HR Morning Show. It's so good to see you too. And I
So
hear
excited.
there's some pretty big news. Do you want to say hey to everybody and introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. So, hi, I'm Gina Alioto, and I lead brand and marketing for Shaker Recruitment Marketing. And I'm here to share that Shaker is celebrating 75 years this year.
Wow.
75
Wow.
years.
That is insane. I think it's also a really important reminder that this space has that much history, and Shaker has been there for all of it. Yeah. If people aren't familiar with Shaker, tell us who they are.
Sure. So Shaker is an agency that helps talent leaders, whether it's talent acquisition, employer branding, recruitment marketing, all talent leaders. And we help them with their branding, talent attraction, MarTech, and analytics. And MarTech, what you guys were just talking about, choosing the right technology that's going to work for you and help you, because there's so many options now and it's getting more and more complex. So we help talent leaders parse through all of that and choose the right tech stack for them. So
You've been partnering with the leading HR teams for a long time. How are you going to celebrate? What's 75 years look like for Shaker?
yes, so we started the celebration late last year at RecFest. That's where we had the official kickoff with an interactive art installation where talent leaders literally walked through the eras of recruitment marketing. And it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. There's some really great video content out there on socials. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you take a look. It was a lot of fun walking through the eras of recruitment marketing, everything from the newspaper days through the rise of the internet, through the Great Recession, all the way into the future and what is upon us now through AI and what's to come. And, you know, the thing that I personally value about Shaker is how they have been leading the industry through every major life milestone, not just changes in
Yeah.
talent and talent marketing, but through major life milestones and shifts.
Yeah.
They've been through really everything with talent leaders through the bumps.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is really important because everything feels very reactive lately, right? There's just like, there's daily disruption, I call it. There's a lot of noise right now. I feel like an organization with that much history, I don't want to say you've seen it all because we are literally seeing new things now, but you've seen enough, right? And I think to be a steady hand and a trusted advisor for your clients, I don't think I made it through the walk through time at the booth at RecFest. Are you guys activating anywhere else this spring?
Yes, we will. We'll be having. We're actually going to Unleash in a few weeks. Are we going to see you there, Kyle? So
Absolutely,
we'll
yeah.
see you at
Witness.
Unleash. And we go through we go to many conferences throughout the year. So you'll see us all throughout the year, just as you did last year. And to your point, by the way, Kate Price, our head of content marketing, she said it best. She said that Shaker's longevity has given us the gift of perspective, and I thought that was a great way to
Mm,
summarize it, because I think having a company this, 75 years old in our industry or any industry for that matter is rare, because
yeah,
Nike is what, 63, I think. And then maybe we've got Chanel 75, maybe Chanel is 75. But to be
yeah,
75, to be in business for 75 years and leading through all of the change and having innovation through every generation is rare, no matter what
yeah.
industry you're in. And I think that longevity has given Shaker the perspective to understand when there are these major tectonic shifts that take place in our industry. They understand how to navigate that and how to lead through it.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. So I know that you were backstage as we were talking through, like, one of the latest waves of innovation. What are you seeing at, I mean, how are you seeing the conversation change for your client partners, in, the last couple of years as we've come out of COVID and into the AI era? What is top of mind for them? How is Shaker meeting this moment?
So exactly what you described is what we're seeing as well, that the call to action is do more with less, especially through COVID. That was the call to action. Now it's do even more with even less. And the pressure is really weighing on all talent leaders, no matter what area you're in: employer branding, recruitment marketing, talent acquisition, really every aspect. And honestly, Kyle, in marketing mainstream, we're seeing that too. When we look at where do you invest in for your brand, for marketing, so feeling the squeeze. And I think it's important now more than ever that talent leaders connect with each other peer to peer, which we've always
Yeah,
done really well in this industry. We've done really well. Shaker is helping to be that facilitator between our clients and helping them connect with each other that's what we're doing all throughout the year. We're inviting our customers into the Vision Lab, which is at our global HQ in Chicago. So, and Kyle, you've got to come out and visit us. So come to the Vision Lab, come have a great conversation with us. So we have our customers coming to the Vision Lab, so everyone can look out for those conversations. And we're doing a special edition for the 75th anniversary this year to help our customers and really everybody in the industry hear directly from the peers. What's going on with you? What are you doing? What are you trying? What are you testing?
100.
And then we also have the Vision Report. We're actually in volume 3 this year. Volume 2 is out now, so you can go and download the Vision Report. It's free. And you'll hear from all of the greatest leaders in talent acquisition, employer branding, recruitment marketing, analysts. I think you contributed this year, Kyle. I hope you did. But if anything, make sure we get you into volume 3. So you can download that at shaker.com. And we hope that these tools and resources will help leaders, whether you're a customer or not. Honestly, Shaker prides itself on building relationships. The core of its story is that relationships matter. And that relationships matter through our people at Shaker, the subject matter experts at Shaker, through our clients, our partners, and our collective impact on the industry. And that is a constant because innovation changes through generations. Relationships matter no matter what. And that's what Shaker believes in.
I love it. And what a great time to be leading the charge over there, bringing that story to market. Yeah. I've known you for several years now. It's really cool to see you at the helm here. I know it's a precious story to tell. And I think that anybody that's listening can see that. I think you're familiar with some of the opportunity that lies ahead and the need that they have. Getting together right now is just huge. That was one of my biggest, at the end of every fireside, they're like, what's your word of advice for talent leaders? I'm like, get out, sit down with each other, learn from each other. Super cool to see you guys facilitating a lot of that. I think it just matters a lot.
It's so important. Go touch grass, right?
I know.
Go shake hands, go meet each other, go talk about it and have the tough conversations or ask the questions that seem silly. I think that's a really important time now more than ever.
100.
And by the way, we know each other probably a little bit more than several years. I feel like we don't want to age ourselves, but we know each other a long time now. I can't believe that I've been in this industry for this long. And I have to say, throughout my entire career, working with Shaker is a different type of responsibility because I'm handling a heritage brand. And so, and that is really important because I'm seeking ways to honor the past, but then also looking to the future. And it's a challenge because there's so much to this family owned business and it's their name. And this amazing legacy that this whole family has built throughout their years. And now we're a global organization of upwards of 200 employees servicing not just the Fortune 500, but Fortune 10. So it's a great responsibility. And I'm so grateful that the family has trusted me with this. And it's a great story to tell, right? It's easy marketing when it's a great story to tell.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think the pressure is something to respect too. You have to treat it with care, especially because the work that we do matters in a big way. Mm-hmm. Is there going to be a big party? Are we doing anything? Should I be dusting my tux off or getting it tailored?
So we'll do things in the true Shaker style where they value the people at Shaker. So we're going to have an employee event in July, bringing together all of the subject matter experts across the globe because now we are, we're based in Chicago, but Shaker is actually across all of the U.S. And then we also have a global partnership with One Agent, which is a network of agencies all throughout Europe and beyond. So we will have an event for Shaker employees, and then we're going to do a special customer event later in the year. So stay tuned for that. And then the greater audiences will definitely see us through the Vision Lab special edition episodes, the Vision Report, and through the conferences that we're going to see you at throughout the year.
I can't wait. Thank you so much. Congratulations. What a legacy. And I am excited to take a walk through time at Shaker at Unleash. We will see you in Las Vegas. Thanks, Gina.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.
Good morning, Tracy. How are you?
Hey there. Good morning. I'm doing all right.
That is awesome. I love your energy. I love the electricity that I'm feeling off that smile. That is really why you are awesome at all things that you do. Now, real quick, coffee? Was that coffee or beer?
We are definitely really powered by coffee this morning, but I'm glad it's coming through. I am excited to be here.
Well, awesome. So, real quick, for those of you who don't know Tracy and have not been following her story since she was the SCP of National Recruitment for Teach for America, Tracy is the global head of talent at Zapier. She leads talent acquisition, talent intelligence, sourcing, employer branding, diversity partnerships, internal mobilities, and executive talent planning. So it is with my energy and my gusto and my lack of coffee that I invite Tracy to the stage. Good morning, Tracy. Let's rock and roll.
All right, I'm here for it.
Was that on par with the energy that it takes to bring great talent to Zapier?
Yes. So I will say I get my energy. I started my career as a kindergarten teacher through Teach for America. So I often say this is my kindergarten teacher energy, first thing in the morning, ready to start the day. But yes, I feel like I am passionate about talent, passionate about what we do at Zapier. And so obviously that fuels me as well.
Well, so talking about what fuels you, I don't want to steal all the thunder. I have a bad habit of being the guy who sucks the oxygen out of the room. Talk to me a little bit about AI and recruiting, because I feel like Zapier, that you guys are kind of taking a lead. You actually publish in advance of somebody applying how they're going to work through the process and how AI is going to benefit them. Talk to us about that for a quick second.
Yeah, I think I should start with a little bit of a frame. So at Zapier, we absolutely think of AI as a tool. It's not the goal. Obviously, the goal is better outcomes. And in recruiting, that's fairer, faster, and more human experiences. And so we use AI to take the friction out of the work so people can focus on the things that people uniquely do best, right? And so then we carry that into our company philosophy and also into our hiring experience as well. So we put an AI Fluency Bar in place for our hiring processes, because we believe that AI is now a part of how work gets done in almost every single role, from your engineers to your tax accountants, and certainly in recruitment. And so without this shared bar, you might get inconsistency, right? One interviewer rewards experimentation, another, rewards something else. They're looking at certain tools. So when we think about AI at Zapier, we want to start from the very beginning, the hiring process, who we're bringing into the organization, how we're looking at mindset, strategic acumen, practical builder skills, right? And then also we're doing that internally as well. We're like really ensuring that we're up leveling our own workforce to ensure that we're almost meeting in the middle, right? Our current team is upskilling in AI, and our new folks coming in are meeting a different bar than we've ever seen in the past. And so we're building a much more elite AI forward team in the process.
All right, you got to talk to me about what you're doing from an upskilling standpoint. Like, can you give away some of the secret sauce?
Yeah. So Zapier went from about, I want to say, it was probably in like the low 50s AI adoption to 97% adoption, meaning that Zapians are using AI in their daily work. 97% of our workforce, right? And at TA, I have to brag a little bit. TA and on the people team, we're using it 100% in our daily work. So how did we get there? I think a couple of things. One, when we started this journey at Zapier a few years ago, we very quickly put in all of our governance constraints, right? Because I think people can really run with AI when they actually have guardrails. It feels counterintuitive, but the more constraints you give, the more people feel safe and clear to run. So that was one. The second thing, though, is that we actually created, we didn't create, we added in upskilling on AI and all of the rituals that we already had. So we didn't add anything new. This wasn't like a side project. So when we had hackathons, which is something we do at Zapier, we put AI fluency and AI focus at the forefront of that. We added in AI skill building into all of our offsites, into all of our learning and development sessions. We reimagined how we thought about performance management and putting AI fluency as a piece of that. And then backwards mapping that to think through, okay, how are we actually changing our approach to onboarding? And then of course, hiring. But all of this was rituals and experiences that we already had at Zapier. We have places for beginners in AI to chat with other beginners in AI on Slack. We have places for those who are a lot more advanced to have weekly meetings about the fun stuff they're doing in AI as well as the work stuff. So it was really comprehensive. I know it sounds like a whole long list of things, but
It does, but I'm sitting here and I'm like, it's
yeah,
comprehensive. You're making a place at the table for everyone to sit
yeah.
at the table, no matter if they want a T-bone steak or if they want barbecued tofu.
Right, right. So if you're going to raise the level of expectation, you have to raise the support to meet it. So just this next week, we're exploring using Cursor and Cloud Codework and other AI building tools, even us on the recruitment team. So we're getting enablement to learn how to do that, how to set that up, how to use Zapier's MCP to be able to make that even more effective. So even as a TA leader, I'm learning all of these skills and these tools as well. And that's been really fun and exciting because we really think it is important for every single role to have a handle on this.
All right, so let me slow down the automation for a second because I think that sometimes that recruiters get defensive when they hear automation and then they frame it and they say, well, what about the candidate experience? How does this make recruiting more human and not less?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have so much to say on this, so I will
Go
keep it
for it.
short. But yeah,
I'll be quiet.
yeah. So I think that, well, a couple of things. I think a lot of HR teams in particular are feeling multiple pressures at once. And some of your other guests earlier spoke to this. You know, we're asked to move faster with less, but also make better decisions. And also, I would say we're charged with having a better candidate experience. And so when we think about AI at Zapier, we start with the outcomes and we think about how can we redesign the workflow and decide what's best done by automation and what's best done by AI and what must stay human. And so I always say that automation and AI actually really supports a human-centered process. It actually finds more places for humanity to happen by automating or using AI assisted methods to, tackle all of the tasks that you don't want to do. It allows you to do your job, which is actually faster hiring, fair hiring, help candidates feel supported through the process, having those relationships, those connections, like it really creates time for that. And I think when we do that, that actually allows for more humanity, not less.
So I just want to challenge one thing. You talk about speed, and I don't want to get on to Chad from accounting that he can't free up his calendar or something of that nature. But do you ever think it goes too fast that it makes the candidate go, huh, what's going on here? They're moving too quickly. Do you ever think that happens?
Mm.
Or with the top 1% of talent, do you think they not notice? I'm just curious. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say at this point, it's not moving too fast, but I could certainly see a world where it starts to feel very robotic and fast in that way, right? When you're not getting the human touch points, the human connection, you're not feeling heard as a candidate. Recruiters aren't feeling like they're making those connections. I could see that if over dialed, you could certainly get to that point. So I think that's a good call out. It's something that we should be aware of. When we think about utilizing AI in anything, we say it has to meet three things. It has to be better quality, more efficient, and a better candidate experience. And so I think for companies that are just focusing on just efficiency, focusing on just trying to do more for less, I think this is a bigger risk. If you're thinking about quality and candidate experience, that kind of forces you to slow down because sometimes utilizing AI doesn't actually mean it makes things faster. It might actually just mean it makes things better. And that would be a great outcome as well.
Would you touch on those three things again? You said better quality, better candidate experience, and what was the third? Or
And
the middle
efficiency.
layer?
Yeah.
Better efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, as talent teams, again, yes, completely understand that people are being asked to do more with less and to do it faster and to ensure that we're not losing top talent by having a quick and speedy process. But at the end of the day, it's still about quality decision making. It's ensuring you're getting the right talent for the right roles. And that isn't something that I think certainly can't be, pushed off to AI in any sense of the word, right? But it's also something that if you have more AI to support some of your processes, you have people that can focus on the quality decision making and really understanding like quality of hire, for example.
Okay, so we're talking about that deeper candidate connection, right? We're using automated workflows. I'm just astounded. I'm not like in disbelief, but I'm astounded that you all touch each of your candidates and give a remarkable candidate experience. There are people who
We
talk
try.
about it on Reddit, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of that's where I go for my information on whether or not people have a good candidate experience or not. I'm just curious. How do you make sure that every person who's through the process sees themselves as a Zappian before they cross the finish line?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question. I mean, I think this goes back to honestly my days at Teach for America when we were recruiting college students to work in low income schools, which is a very tough sell, unfortunately, right? And I really feel like you have to win every candidate all the time. That there is never, even if it's a market where the employer has a lot more control, you have to think about it as it being a candidate market because the best talent will always be in high demand. And so we think through that human-centered lens as we design and redesign now with AI every single piece of our process. So we want to ensure that candidates are getting what they need to be able to assess us as we're assessing them and ensuring that those touch points are very, very meaningful every step of the way. So we do a lot of work to have AI support us in insights gathering and research and making sure we don't drop the ball. We have a commitment to candidates that we will get back to them every 7 days with an update, even if the
Right.
update is the hiring team isn't ready. So this is a non-update update, but we don't ghost candidates. I mean, we do our absolute best to ensure that people understand what's happening at every step of the way. And that just shows a respect for and honoring the candidate's time. So we really pride ourselves on that transparency and that commitment, which has been at Zapier, even before I was there. So
But you guys are a global company. You're fully distributed. You're 100% remote. How do you think that I want to go back to that Teach for America portion and dial in, and maybe that's my last question.
yeah.
How do you think this background in Teach for America and early childhood education, how do you think it shaped you to make sure that you're delivering that human-centered approach?
Oh gosh, I love that question. First of all, I have to say teachers are amazing, and that was by far the hardest job I've ever done. So everything after teaching kindergarten is a walk in the park. I truly, truly, I have to say. But I think my teaching background really shaped my leadership more than anything. In a classroom, you don't get outcomes by willpower, right? You design the environment, you have clear expectations, fast feedback, psychological safety, and even routines and systems that help people grow. And so I think scaling my team is the same. Thinking about the candidate experience is the same. So much about talent is similar to teaching, identifying the talent, nurturing it, helping it thrive. When you take those same principles and values and care into the things that I did as a teacher, that very nicely mirrors what we're doing in talent. And I think understanding that talent is something to be honored, it's something to be nurtured, is the way that I approached teaching 5-year-olds. And it's also the way that I approach thinking about our candidates and their experience with us.
So, Tracy, I want to thank you on behalf of the Purple Acorn Network. This has been a delightful conversation this morning. Energy, tenacity, curiosity, empathy for the candidate and for the recruiter and for what's going on in the world of AI. Tracy, thank you for making this a way to start the morning.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Rock on, my friend.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering what brings us to Purple Acorn every week, it's one of our sponsors, right? Tech Talent PR. If you were in San Diego and you gazed upon a 60-foot blow up dinosaur on the beach and a taco truck where people were making tacos in the traditional sense of pressing each individual tortilla, then you know that this is the power of a shared experience. And this is the type of experience that Talent Tech PR brings to every engagement, to touch every individual's heart, to make sure that they feel the moment and they walk back from a conference with more than confusion. They walk back through the forest with camaraderie and colleagues that are bound through them through experience. And I can't thank Evan enough for sponsoring that great, or for running that great event for Penn and for Perfect Hire on the beach. If you're looking to do the next thing at your event and be the next thing that people are talking about, 50-foot dinosaur or not, you want to connect with Talent Tech PR.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's time for your HR weather. And today I'm asking the question, do job titles matter anymore? Well, Deloitte thinks so. By June, they're changing the job titles of nearly 182,000 US employees to reflect their big push into AI transformation. That's not a tweak. That's a really big shift. Now, on the surface, this makes sense. If AI is reshaping consulting, then job titles should reflect the real skills that people bring to the table. Clearer titles generally means clearer expectations. And we need clarity in job titles more than ever. If your title is vague, it's hard to map out your long term career. But here's where the weather gets choppy. If it's just cosmetic, if it's lipstick on a pig, employees will see right through it. You just can't relabel people and call it AI transformation. First of all, are you training them? Are you investing in them? Are you rewarding them for building those new AI skills? Or is it just, hey, you're lucky, you still have a job? Because when leaders make changes like this without involving employees, it feels imposed. And imposed change creates a lot of resistance. So here's today's forecast. If the job title reflects real skills, real training, and real opportunity, that's a good sign. If it's branding without substance, well, you should expect some turbulence here. That's your HR weather. How about we get back to the gents on the panel?
Serge, I got to jump in here real quick. This came out of this comes out, and it makes me wonder: are we watching a silent promotion of tens of thousands of people? And by silent promotion, are we changing job titles and responsibilities without giving more compensation?
That's a very good question.
Coming in
And I
hot,
think, like, if
Brian.
we take a step back,
Brought the
if
tea.
they have more skills, they have bigger responsibilities. Yeah, of course, it should include compensation. But is this the right environment right now? Is it an environment that higher compensation is even on the table? I think it should be, but I'm not 100% sure right now.
Yeah, but if we look at what's going on in the market, Brian, I'm glad you called that out. And we've talked about it with the whole AI interviewer. We're expecting more out of a less large team. That's not right. Out of a smaller team,
Yeah.
but we're not increasing their commission or their compensation to be commensurate with what is being expected. And I guess as a former practitioner, that's a fear of mine, is that we're going to go too long into that. And I mean, to be honest, if we look at what's going on in the workforce, employers, they can do that because there's not a lot of jobs for their current workforce to go and get. I mean, we've heard about job hugging. I just worry that some companies are taking advantage of that.
Well, here's the thing, Trent. If these folks have a higher skill set because of this training, this recalibration of what they do, they're going to be very attractive in the marketplace. So if a company like Deloitte changes their title, gives them more training, gets them in a better position, but doesn't give them higher compensation, these folks, even though I agree there's a lot of job hugging, but in this environment, there's still a demand for people with very specific skill set that these people should have. So they're still attractive in the marketplace in some ways. The risk is, like in this case, if you're relabel, you're changing the job titles, they have higher skill sets, you're not giving them higher compensation, they're going to leave. They're going to have options out in the marketplace. So I guess that's the risk. But like, Trent, question for you on that. Like, being a practitioner, job titles is always something that employees hold near and dear to their heart. It's very important. And in a lot of cases, it shows progression in their career. Like, how important is job titles for people right now? Do they care anymore, or is it still really important?
Looking at the data, I think you need to look at that generationally. So
Yeah.
your boomers, your Gen X, and I would even say probably the upper tier of your millennials, probably so. Yeah, that they kind of equate going from a mid to a senior as being a job progression, and they like to tout that on LinkedIn. Gen Z is going to be really interesting to see how do they respond to that, because they are really big about looking at they want to have more opportunities. They want to, looking at interviewing, they're one of the first generations that's raised the hand at 44, 50% of them and say, I would much rather show you my skills than you just rely on my resume. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be really interesting to see how this incoming generation really responds to, you know, there were several times I got promoted. Hey, you're now a senior vice president and blah, blah, blah. And there was no money that came with it, but a lot of extra responsibility. But I got that SVP title, so I was like, yeah, it's a trade off.
Yeah.
I don't know that Gen Z is really going to fall for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because even as I'm getting older, I care way less about titles than I ever did compared to when I was like in my 30s, where like I wanted to show career progression. But with a lot of Gen Zs that I work, they don't really care. What's your take here, Kyle?
Yeah, as the youngest person on this panel by a mile.
Look at the gray hair. Come on, Kyle.
Yeah, well, I dye my hair to look like this. Just kidding. This is natural. I think it is an important conversation. I would say that there is a parallel trend that we should track, which is what's happening at that entry level. Has been a lot of concern, especially across our profession, in HR and talent, where are we going to continue hiring entry level people if agentic AI can do a lot of what has historically been entry level work? And IBM's CHRO just put out a very strong message that the companies that do not continue to invest in early career entry level roles are going to be way behind. So I think that the trade-off is going to be we're going to have to learn. We're going to have to make some mistakes. We're going to have to see what sticks. I think that if we continue to over-index on capitalist priorities, that we are going to be at risk as organizations. And that's not just the geriatric millennial in me who hates capitalism. I'm a business owner, so I gotta embrace it. But truly, we do need to be creating space in our workforce planning for us to make some bets. And I hope that we make more bets on people than we do on the technology, because the people are going to still be around. So I think we'll see. I don't care about title. I care about work. I want to do cool stuff, interesting things. Right. I do want to make money. Hello. But I'm not gonna. I've had opportunities where I've turned down increased revenue or an increased salary for work I didn't want to take on. And yeah, everybody. It's an individualistic society. Everybody wants different things, and I think that in the age of AI, it should be easier for us to individualize our career options. We'll see.
Well, you bring up a really good. Go ahead.
Actually, on that entry level, I wanted to go one step further because I got asked by a media outlet about this whole constriction that we're seeing in the entry level. And for me, I think that this is the time that real CHROs, and I'm glad that the IBM CHRO kind of, started the conversation. The problem is not that AI can replace entry level. It is the fact that we have not looked at how can AI augment entry level and fast track them. So if we look at bringing on, and God, the number of years that I would oversee a division that we recruited some of the top talent out of the colleges, and then just find out that the first 6 months they're in the filing room or something that is so mundane and below the education and below the price point that we paid to get that top talent. What I am challenging a lot of practitioners is relook at how can you augment, and that ramp up time of productivity for a recent college grad on average was anywhere between 18 months and 2 years. I think AI can shrink that. So to me, if you're not investing now more than before, if you're not investing now in curating that top talent, who's going to take over these middle management positions that most of the companies are going, oh, well, middle management would just be over all these orchestrators and these AI agents. When they want to get promoted, who's going to take their place? You don't have anyone on the bench.
Well, they won't exist anymore. No, I'm kidding. But
that's a little.
Maybe you're not. Maybe you're not. Maybe that hits a little close to home.
But there's one thing that really concerns me is looking at the data. I work in the job advertising space, and we're seeing the data of entry level roles in the last 3 years drop so significantly that I'm really scared about this generation coming back into the workforce. And it's not only AI, like we're seeing other factors that are causing a huge decline. Like if I look here in Canada, and I know the data is very similar in the US, 15 to 24, there's almost 18% unemployment rate which is extremely scary. Not only the part-time McDonald's jobs are kind of disappearing for that demographic, but pretty much every entry level is taking a long time for them to get into the workforce. And especially if you look at what I call sit-down roles, those desk jobs. They're just not getting hired right now. The job advertisings are down almost 50% in 3 years from my data. Like overall data, I'm not 100% sure, but that's daunting in any case. So it's a little bit scary out there.
Serge, you bring up that data, and I'm not sure if you saw the post that I made about it. Is that I pulled the data for software engineering roles
Yeah.
and how the job posts are down on Indeed. Are you seeing job posts down across the board, like globally, from company job boards, or are you seeing them just on the major networks like Indeed and LinkedIn and Glassdoor?
Well, my source is pulling directly from company ATS and feeds of jobs that are coming from company ATS. So this is across the board. This is across pretty much every industry. I'm glad you pointed out software development because that is probably the hardest hit that I've seen. But like if you look at pretty much any desk job, we've seen huge decline. The only difference is really in healthcare, and we've seen healthcare is probably sustaining the job environment out there right now. If you look at the numbers, but even healthcare is not hiring a lot of entry level, which is mind blowing. Like you want those nurses coming straight out of school, right? Like you need to build that pipeline of folks that will be taking care of all of us eventually one day. So yeah, it's scary, but it's across the board, Brian. So, oh, you're on
Trent,
mute.
you're on mute.
Sorry, I have two
I'm
dogs.
sure what you said was hilarious.
It was very, very deep. No, I was saying is actually the data just came out. I think unemployment rate, normal unemployment rate dropped down to 4.3, so it dropped a tenth of a point. But if you look at those in Gen Z that have not graduated college, the rate is actually at 7.8. And it's continuing to rise. So there is some compression there that we're seeing in the data that's showing that the unemployment rate for your typical entry level age group is increasing ahead of what normal unemployment rate is.
Interesting. Do you, looking at the
And then
labor
also
data,
too, on
especially,
the you mentioned healthcare. We just put out our February workforce report, and we look at healthcare. And I don't know about in Canada, but in the U.S., we added 584,000 jobs.
Yeah.
69% of that was healthcare. Actually, healthcare added 713,
Yeah.
but because we saw such a loss in all the other sectors, it drove down to 584 net. So, I mean, you're dead on as usual, Serge, that healthcare is a sector that continues to grow, and it's going to continue because if you look at the aging population, I hate referring to this as supply, but the supply of patients is only going to increase, and that's a sector we
demand for
really need
care.
to watch. Demand for care.
But
Thank you.
Demand
But I'm
for
I
care.
going
needed
to
that for the
challenge you
last
on
3
that.
weeks.
Trent, I'm going to challenge you on that. Is with the advances that we're seeing in robotics out of Japan, not out of Elonville.
Mhm.
That was not on the bingo card, but the advances we're seeing in robotics for aging populations and support for aging populations out of Japan says just the opposite.
Hmm.
That we're actually, as the population ages and robotics catches up with it, there's less of a demand for individuals to quote unquote be frontline workers, and that they can take on more specialization.
Well,
Well,
I'm going to
that's
need you to
interesting
text that to
because
me.
Japan's an interesting case where population growth is just not happening, right? The birth rate is not increasing, so we're not supplying new labor into the marketplace at one particular time. So yeah, robotics is pretty much the only case. But doesn't that seem a little bit dystopian to you, though, Brian? That we're going to have our elderly parents or us being taken care of by robotics? Like, there's an empathy side to healthcare that I don't think any AI robotics can really change. But
So
that's me.
Serge, we've already talked about sex and politics and religion on this podcast this morning. I am hesitant to bring up that we are living in a dystopian reality right now where we're erasing history of populations, right? I realize that we're having a conversation amongst 5 white guys. It's also not lost to me that we have that we have whitewashed history, right? Four white guys. I'm sorry, I can't count, right? That'll be whitewashed. But it is not lost on me that we are whitewashing history and we are creating a new narrative. And that in itself is dystopian. It's straight out of 1984.
I don't know what you just said, to be honest. Like, where are you going to? Like,
where I'm going to is I'm pointing out the fact that valiantly or not so valiantly, we have lost our ability to stand up to power, and we've lost our ability to stand up to the curtailing of history and the removal of slavery as America's original sin. In this month, it is Black History Month in the United States, when we should be celebrating the contributions of Black and African Americans to our culture, where instead we're washing it away from the Smithsonian. Does anybody see the contradiction there?
I absolutely 100% on board.
Serge, you didn't follow me. It's all good. All right, that's cool.
No, I love it.
I got a little too political. I got soapboxy. I won't be back to the show. They're taking me to a re-education camp.
Yeah. So nonetheless, job titles are still important. That's the message of the weather today. And if you're going to reshape your job titles, make sure there's something that comes with it. And compensation is, cost of living has gone up everywhere across the world. So we need more money to have sustainable lifestyle. So let's make the adjustments in salary as well. Thanks a lot, guys. Great show, by the way. And I missed the part about sex. I'm feeling really bad that I missed that one.
There's a couch behind Kyle.
Okay, see you guys.
I think that's a wrap.
Oh
Is that a wrap?
I was like, where's the ripcord? Can I pull my ripcord?
We can tell that Brian hasn't had enough coffee, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or too much. Maybe you were enjoying the mushroom chocolate or mushroom coffee.
Mushroom chocolates? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Or mushroom coffee, which tastes like mud, basically. If you don't know if you've tried it before.
You know, John Baldino turned me onto a brand that's really good, that really does taste like chocolate. It's fantastic. I can't think of the name of it. Shout out to John Baldino, because John is awesome.
Literally the best.
Yeah.
Fellow Cancer, by the way. Actually, fun fact, John has the same birthday as my husband.
So wait a minute. Who else is it? I'm a Cancer on the call.
I'm a Cancer, and Kyle's a Cancer too.
Oh, well, that explains a lot about today's episode.
Yeah, it does. That's where
very emotionally charged.
Yes.
I do want to thank both of you for being so thoughtful and insightful. I think that oftentimes it's easy to get onto shows like this and it's just talk show BS, like keeping the sound waves going. But I really find myself leaning in when you all have something to say, and I think that's the kind of show I want to wake up to in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again. I said it on my segment, but the work that you and your team are doing, there's a hole in the market that you are definitely like filling in with the right data. And I can't wait to see some of the other stuff that you and the team put out.
Thank you. Guess what's coming next, boys?
What?
Candidate fraud. We're going to look at how AI is detecting that. Ooh. Another fraud one. Yep.
Oh, that'll be good. Quarter. All right. So we'll get back for the Gartner 2028 statistic that said that 1/4 of all candidates will not be real candidates. Great. We will look forward to that conversation. Do want to shout out again and thank Talent Tech PR for supporting our endeavors here at the HR Morning Show. If you're turning in late, you can go back and you can watch us on YouTube. You can download this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get the sound that goes between your ears. You can do that thing. I want to thank Kyle and Trent again. This has been a tremendous morning and a great way to kick things off. Thanks for our guests. I think that Gina, I think that Riley, I think that everybody that we had was just tremendous. I'm gonna plug just for a second that I think Tracy was outstanding because she really brought the empathy.
Masterclass.
Yes, masterclass on what has to happen in your organization for it to be AI ready and AI first.
Love it.
Let's go.
Have a great Tuesday, everybody.
Bye, everyone.